Well, now joining us here on A's Cast Live from Los Angeles, he covers your Oakland Athletics for MLB.com, Martin Gallegos. First of all, please tell me you enjoyed yourself a day off in L.A.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It was great that it fell, the way it did with the schedule flying in from Colorado, short trip, 2 hours. I land LA Sunday night. And yesterday, just kind of relaxed around the city. Went over to Venice Beach for a little bit, checked out a museum more towards Riverside area. So had some good food, good burgers. It was a good time out here.
Nice. And then it's always fun to get to Dodger Stadium because Dodger Stadium is still – it's got its charm. It's old school, but they've modernized it a little bit. But it's truly one of the great locations in our game.
Yeah, for sure. The first time I came here was like 2018, and I came back again for the All-Star game last year. Every time I walk in here, it feels different. It's a legendary park, a lot of history, obviously, that has taken place here. And so whenever I get a chance to cover here, it's pretty awesome for sure. And they've done a good job keeping it up. They've remodeled it for the All-Star game, and it feels like a pretty modern park. Getting around is kind of difficult at times, but once you're in here and watching a ball game, it's pretty special for sure.
Well, and think about it. You can hear it in the background right now. They still have the old school organ going.
Yeah, the guy's playing it right. He literally steps away. There's an organist right now, a real organist. You don't see that in baseball that often anymore.
No, it's absolutely awesome. I love Dodger Stadium. And you know what? It's always been said, the place is so clean, you've always felt like you could drop your food on the floor and pick it up and still eat it. It is a clean ballpark.
Yeah, for sure. From walking in here, they do a good job. Like I said, they've kept it up real well. And I'm glad we got the chance to come out here for the series. I always love covering games down here for sure.
All right, I think all of us covering this team have felt like enough's enough. Going to need to see young players. Going to have to audition young players, and it's tough to audition young players when you have veteran players. And the deadline was just, we thought would be a process where you'd be able to open up some spots. That really didn't happen. Just tell us your opinion on what the A's roster looks like right now, even what the starting lineup looks like tonight.
Yeah, I think the thing that jumps out obviously was the Jace Peterson trade. I don't think, the A's obviously had some veteran guys who we thought could get moved. But I don't think Jace Peterson was one of those guys. I didn't see a scenario in which he got moved, but they found a team that was, looking for some infield help. I think Evan Longoria is hurt over there for the Arizona Diamondbacks, so they needed a little help there, and they send him over. And I think the main thing there is it opens up third base for a guy like Jordan Diaz, and you see Jordan Diaz in there at third base today. And I think, talking to Kotsay pregame today, it's basically going to be, that's going to be Jordan Diaz's spot there to kind of take and run with it. He's going to get the majority of the time there here for the second half. And, you mentioned that the youth movement is kind of underway here with, Gelof here, Soderstrom, even guys like Cody Thomas. We're going to want to see these guys getting a little bit more playing time now here in the second half and see them in the lineup a little bit with a little bit more regularity. This is their chance to kind of just establish themselves. So then come next year, they have this experience under the belt and they can hit the ground running.
So then how do you handle Aledmus Diaz, Seth Brown, Ramon Laureano, Tony Kemp? How do you end up handling this situation?
Yeah, I think with those guys that didn't get moved, I think the expectation was we'd see some of those guys moved. Now that they're not moved, I think, they'll still get their playing time here and there, but I think it's time for them to kind of take a step back a little bit and maybe serve as more of a leadership role. I think a guy like Laureano will still get some playing time against lefties. Seth Brown some playing time against righties. But for a guy like Aledmus Diaz and Tony Kemp, they're playing at spots where they have players who they want to get a good look at in the second half. And, the only way they're going to get a good look at them is if they're in the lineup with regularity. So I think for a guy like Tony Kemp and a guy like Aledmus Diaz, their best role to kind of help the team here in the second half is to provide guidance. And, you see it, I saw it today, I was in the clubhouse a little bit and I saw Aledmus Diaz having a long conversation with Jordan Diaz about hitting and just kind of the approach, moving up from AAA to the majors and how it's kind of different. So that's a way where they can help out, and kind of leave a mark for the long term, whether they're here next year or not. They can leave a good impression here wherever they go next and help these young players kind of develop into big leaguers.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very tough month for Mark Kotsay. I think it's going to be a really tough month. I think they can sell it right now all they want, but At some point, September call-ups are going to come. Veteran guys want to play. You don't want to play them. There could be some guys DFA'd. It could be some really tough. I know for me, there's going to be a lot of tough phone calls on the A's clubhouse show after games. I understand it, but when you got older guys hitting around 200, here's something that Robert Murray, a baseball insider, and he breaks a lot of news, everything. He was telling us what he was hearing is that we actually were asking a lot for our guys. And I just wonder, like, why would we do that? Why would, if someone said, we want Seth Brown, why would you play hardball with that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think obviously you look at some of the guys like a Tony Kemp or a Trevor May. I think obviously they've had pretty good months, like a month stretch of good, performances on the field. But a guy like Seth Brown hasn't really been able to get it going all year. So it's a tough spot. You're obviously definitely, if you're going to trade him somewhere, you're going to be selling low, I would think. I didn't hear the particulars of what exactly they were asking for, but I think at this point with a guy like him and Laureano, their value is just so low, especially with a guy like Laureano. I think the hope was that he didn't get hurt as much as he's been getting hurt this year, and he would maybe establish some trade value, but he really hasn't been playing the whole year. And when he hasn't really been able to get it going for a sustained stretch. He'll have short bursts here and there where he shows some flashes, but overall, it's just kind of been hard for both of those guys to get it going. So, both guys who are still under team control. So maybe this offseason, if they could put together a second half, which we don't know how much playing time they're going to be getting, but if they can do something with the time that they do get, maybe in the offseason is where you kind of see those talks for trades kind of re-engage and maybe one or two of those guys move somewhere else.
I miss Esteury Ruiz. I miss saying his name. I miss watching him play. I'm not sure if he's a center fielder or not, but I know he needs to play. He needs to play every day, and he's got to be in the lineup. Are we going to see him in the next couple days?
Yeah, I think it's coming soon. Kate said he's been feeling good after each rehab game. He's kind of slowly advancing from 5 innings to 7 innings. He's playing tonight in Vegas. Well, I think they're in Albuquerque, but they're going to be playing over there. I think he's going to play 9 innings tonight in center. So the progression's pretty fast. And as long as he's feeling healthy, which he has been, it sounds like he said, he could be back sooner rather than later. Whether that's for the Giants series this weekend or even in this Dodgers series, I think we're going to see him for sure by the end of this week. And I mean, he's definitely a guy who they could use. They've been getting some nice production out there by, JJ Bleday, who's in center again today and actually leading off. So that's going to be an interesting situation there when Ruiz does come back. But there's no question that they're a better team with Ruiz in there in that lineup and providing a spark somewhere at the top of that order. And it'll be fun to watch him here, especially now with guys like Gelof and Soderstrom up and kind of be a part of that mix of that young lineup with guys who are, hopefully a part of this team's future.
I like Bleday, but he's got to hit. I think this is the perfect time to say you're in there every day. You were taken 4th overall in the draft because you got talent. Prove you can do it. And if he can prove he can do it, you got an everyday player sitting there right in front of you. What do you think so far of JJ Bleday?
Yeah, I think approach-wise, he brings a great approach, and I think it's been constant since he got called up. And I think that's why even maybe when the numbers weren't that great at first when he got called up, he still was taking really good at-bats, and that's why he kept himself up here in the big leagues. A lot of times if a guy doesn't perform, in terms of results, they get sent down. But he's been up here the whole time, and I think it's because the A's take note of just his approach. He, works really good counts every time he's at the plate. Seems like he's always, making a pitcher work. He's able to draw walks here and there, even when he's not maybe hitting at his best. I don't think we've still seen the best of him when he's 100% hitting wise. He did have that little stretch last week where he hit 3 homers in 6 games, and it was looking like he was turning it around a little bit. But he's still working through some things. He's still trying to find himself at the big league level. But I mean, if he can, hit the way, he was projected to as such a high draft pick as he was. I mean, the A's have a pretty good player there, and he's getting a chance to play almost every day right now. And I think it's his opportunity to kind of shine and take a spot for himself to, even when Ruiz comes back, get some regular playing time out there somewhere in the outfield, whether it's center or he could play both corner spots. He's pretty versatile out there, but he's definitely I think, part of that young mix of guys on this team who are showing some promise here.
All right, you've now seen it for a couple weeks. How excited are you about Zack Gelof?
He's definitely been electric. He brings a lot of energy. I think that's the one word that everybody kind of tosses around is energy. And that's what he brings to the clubhouse, to the team. not necessarily a boisterous guy, but I think just the way he plays and the way he goes all out, whether it's on defense or running the bases, I think the players kind of take note of that and respect that. The way he goes about playing the game and the way he puts in work in the clubhouse and the cage. He's been fun to watch. Certainly, if you're looking for some excitement for the second half and something to kind of look forward to and a reason to watch A's games in the second half, Zack Gelof has to be right at the top of that list. And we're still waiting for Soderstrom as well to kind of get it going. He's gotten some hits, here in these last 3 or 4 games, I think, with at least one hit. So maybe this series is where he kind of really gets it going with the power, because we haven't seen him, obviously hit a homer yet. But those two guys, I think, are if you're looking for something to watch in the second half, they bring a lot of intrigue for sure. Because I think these guys, if all goes according to plan and what the A's expect from them, these could be cornerstone type players. Kind of like Matt Chapman and Matt Olson back in the day.
No doubt about it. And like, I think about what we just watched, right? We watched these guys go get to play at Coors Field. Really tough play to play. Now they get to come to historic Dodger Stadium. That's why I want them up here and not in Las Vegas. I want Soderstrom and Gelof and Blade and Diaz and all these guys. I want Medina to get the ball. I want Waldichuk to get the ball. I want these guys all – JP Sears, I want these guys to continue to grow and get these experiences. And I think this series right here will be a good experience. And Soderstrom, no question. How about Medina? If there's one guy where you go, hey, could somebody be legit? Just tell us, like last 6-7 starts, what you've seen from him.
Yeah, it's impressive. You look at his slider and how good it's been, and kind of, I'd seen him throwing it all year, but really, I remembered back to spring training when I was writing up his prospect reports, and he wasn't throwing a slider before this year. So that's a new slider I asked him about. He said he learned it in spring training, and he started throwing it in the start of the minor league season in games. And now that pitch is looking pretty devastating. You see that outing in Colorado, and they couldn't figure out that slider. He was throwing it by everybody, swing and miss, a bunch of swing and misses. All of his strikeouts were on the slider. And when you combine that with obviously the 100-mile-per-hour fastball and the big looping curveball that's around low 80s, there's so much deception there, so much variance in speeds that the guy can be unhittable. It all comes down to control, which in that outing, I think the no walks was the biggest thing more than the strikeouts. Obviously, we know he has really dazzling stuff, but it's all about commanding. And it seems like with each start that goes by over the last 6 or 7, he's gained a lot more confidence. He's been around the zone. He's throwing strikes. He's not afraid of hitters. And he's not walking guys. He's not allowing the free passes, and that's why you're seeing the low run totals. And for a young pitcher who comes up in the big leagues, it could be tough at times for them to kind of be comfortable enough to attack guys. But he's kind of shown that mentality from day one. When even that start in Anaheim, his first outing as a big leaguer, he's attacks and he's not afraid of guys. And I think that's something that Kotsay and the coaching staff really have taken note of and really are excited about. Is he's not afraid of to pitch under the bright lights. And I think as he gains more confidence, I kind of remember back to Frankie Montas when he first came up with the A's. He was, kind of a hard thrower, but wasn't really a pitcher yet. And then he developed that splitter, and all of a sudden he became, a frontline pitcher for them. With Medina, it kind of feels like similar vibes. He's got that slider now, and he's got kind of a full assortment of pitches, and he's learning how to pitch and not just throw hard. And, there's still going to be some learning curves here. He doesn't have a ton of experience under his belt, but there's certainly a lot of promise for a guy who most people expected maybe his ceiling would be a reliever, a closer type. He's certainly looking like a guy who could be a starter for a lot of years up here.
Great stuff, my man. Enjoy the series, and we'll talk to you soon. We'll actually see you this weekend.
All right, sounds good, Tony. See you.